Hi, so welcome to the second week of February, Vinyasa Flow. We're going to be working with two chakras today. So that is going to be the Vishuddha chakra, which is your throat chakra, and the Anahata chakra, which is your heart chakra. So the heart chakra is green, the throat chakra is blue, and we're working with the element of space. We're working with this because I want you to start thinking about breathing into spaces in the body. Now we know that you can't send your breath into your toes or into your knees or into your hips, but you can have the awareness of sending the breath there, which helps you release any connective tissue that's holding you back or any tight muscles that's holding you back from going deeper into the pose. We'll be doing a lot of work around the thoracic spine, so this is the upper part of the back before we get to the neck, so around the rib cage area, and we're going to be thinking about extending from the bra line up. So from this space at the lower ribs up to the top of the shoulders, and the way we do that is by squeezing the shoulders back, elongating through the crown of the head. And we're going to be doing quite a lot of movement where we have our hands behind the head in lots of different poses. And that's going to help us to create some space, create space around the chest. We're also going to be working at breathing into those spaces as well. So we're going to be doing some eagle arm poses, which will stretch the back, and the open arms will contract the back and open the chest. So think about breathing into those spaces. It creates a little bit more freedom to open up muscles, connective tissues to get a little bit deeper into poses. So the other thing that we'll be working on is compassion, and compassion comes into this by thinking about how the body feels while you're holding a pose. And when you have that compassion with your body, sometimes it allows that nervous system to calm down, and it allows again to that body to open up a little bit more. And the other thing we're going to be working on is communication, which is the communication from the mind to the body. So that also brings awareness to spaces that we're trying to open up a little bit more. And they're the two things that we're working on in chakras. Communication is the throat chakra and compassion is the heart chakra. So that's why these two chakras come in quite importantly. So we're going to start. We're going to make our way into child's pose, bringing the knees wide apart. Big toes together, bringing our seat towards the feet. It doesn't necessarily have to reach. Sometimes it takes a while to get there. Sometimes you get there quite easily. And before you start to walk the arms too far forward, just give those hips a little rock from side to side. And just start to think about those spaces of the hip flexors that are in contraction right now. And then think about the space of the lower back, which is starting to want to stretch. So as you slowly make the way with the hands to the front of the mat, starting to flex through those shoulders, bringing the forehead to the floor if it reaches, just rocking a little bit from side to side. And as you arrive in your variation of child's pose, just allow the body to settle there for a couple of breaths. Just let the head relax to the floor, let the shoulders relax, let the hips relax, and start to think about the breath. So I'd like you to start thinking about sending that breath into the lower back. So as you breathe in, try and think about that lower back expanding on the inhale and the lower back contracting on the exhale. But as we're also breathing into the back, start to breathe into the belly. So the belly blows up like a balloon on the inhale. So we create some space around that pelvis. And on the exhale, we draw that belly back towards the spine. So it's your choice to use the nose throughout this practice, breathing in and out through it. Or if you need to use the mouth at any point, feel free to do so. But the true yogic breathing is in and out through the nose. It's more of a cleansing breath. Then start to think about sending that breath a little higher up into that rib cage. So expanding the back ribs, expanding the front ribs as you breathe in, expanding the side ribs. And as you breathe out, feel that breath start to compress the lungs, squeezing those intercostal muscles back to draw the ribs towards each other. And again, expand through the front ribs, the side ribs, the back ribs. Really bringing the awareness to that space. And then I'd like you to bring the attention to around the collarbones and the neck. And as you breathe in, try and feel like those collarbones are creating a little more width. Breathing into the shoulders, into the neck area. And as you breathe out, just let everything relax and come back to a little contraction to allow that air to come back out of those lungs. Take it back to the lower back, breathing into the lower back and into the belly. Then sending it up into the front, the side and the back of the ribs. And then up into the collarbones and into the shoulders. Then as you breathe out, let everything soften. Your next breath in, walk the hands over to your right side of the mat, placing your left hand on top of the right. And this time I want you to try and breathe into the left rib cage, expanding that space as you breathe in. Sending it into the waist and into that left hip and up into that left armpit. And as you breathe out, squeeze it back to push the air back out of the lungs. And again, breathe into that left rib cage, expand down into the waist, into that left hip, up into that left armpit. And then let everything draw back and relax. The next breath in, walk the hands over to the opposite side. This time your right hand comes on top of the left. And this time we want to breathe into that right rib cage, into that right armpit, the right waist, into that right hip. And as you breathe out, soften that chest to the inside of that left thigh. Take another long, deep breath in. Expanding into that right side body. As you breathe out, let everything relax back down. Then walking the hands back to centre and take a breath out in neutral space. So just walking the hands in slightly, probably a full handprint in. Keep the legs nice and wide and try and draw the ribs and hips towards each other. We're going to take a little rotation here with the legs wide so it starts to support the pelvis a little. On your breath in, reach up and out with the right hand and turn the chest towards the right side of the room. And as you raise the right hand up to the ceiling, try and grow from that bra line up to the crown of the head. So we just expand that thoracic spine a little bit and breathe into that right side rib cage, into that front side chest. And then thread that right hand in between the left hand, left knee, bringing the right ear to the mat and just allow it to fold and just relax into that twist. And you'll probably notice with those knees wide, it stops that pelvis from moving left or right. So we keep weight in both knees rather than when we're in tabletop position. And then come back with that right hand to the front to meet the left. And we'll take exactly the same movement on the other side. So support with the right hand, reach up with the left hand, turn the chest to the left. And when you get to this space, try and grow up from the bra line, up to the crown of the head, expanding the chest a little bit, trying to keep those ribs and hips a little tethered. And then thread that left hand underneath the right hand, right knee, and bring that left ear to the mat and just allow everything to settle here. Just breathing nice and deeply into those rib cages at the back of the body. And then reaching back out with the left hand back to meet the right. Come up into tabletop position. Bring the knees underneath the hips, tops of the feet flat. Tether the ribs and hips, keep length through the back of the body. Then reach up with the right arm, bringing that right bicep towards the right ear. And try and feel like you're lifting the right arm as much as you can away from the floor, so engaging through those shoulder muscles. Send your left leg back to the back of the room. And then squeezing that left bum cheek to lift that left foot up to hip height without flaring through the ribs and the hips. Trying to keep that core engagement in the center of the body. We're just holding in this space And I want you to really breathe deeply as you hold it here. Maybe raise that right arm up a little higher. Maybe raise the left heel a little higher, but don't sink into that back. One more breath here. And then release the right hand down, the left knee down, and send it onto the other side. So reach forward with the left hand, really squeeze those upper shoulder muscles, tether the ribs and hips, then send your right leg back to the back of the room. And then raise that right leg by squeezing the right bum cheek to lift that leg high, toes of the right foot back to the shins, heels pushing away. Maybe lifting a little higher with that left hand without collapsing in the centre of the body. Breathe into this space, push into that right hand, push into the top of the left foot for support. One more breath here. And then release that left hand down, right knee down. Take a little rock of the hips from side to side. Just moving the body maybe a little through the shoulders, just loosening off from that tension. And then bring yourself back to a plank position, stepping one foot back first and then the other. Keep that space between the shoulder blades filled with that chest cavity. Soften the elbows and really push into the floor with the hands to feel the grounding and push that chest cavity into that space between the shoulder blades, just to create some space around the upper back. And then start to paddle the feet as you start to raise the hips, lifting the hips, paddling the heel down one at a time. When you arrive in your downward facing dog, relax the neck. Keep paddling those feet, letting those hamstrings create space and then contract again. Going in and out of flexion and extension. Then bringing those heels to a still position, we're going to take 3 vinyasas. Take whatever vinyasa works for you, but I'm going to work with option 1 first, but we're taking them a little slower. Come forward to plank on the inhale, long breath in. On your out breath, drop the knees onto the toes, turn the creases of the elbows and slow, long out breath to the floor. Push into the hands, push the hips into the mat, lift up the chest, squeeze the shoulders back so they're drawing towards that bra line. And then release the chest back down, tuck under with the toes. Bring the chest back to the thighs, keeping the core engagement strong. Then push into those hands, push into the feet, lift up with the hips to squeeze the heels back. Option 1 you can stick with again if you wish, or option 2. Come forward to plank on your inhale. This time straight bodies, so turn the crease of the elbows, slowly lower, bringing the elbows to graze the ribs, release to the floor, untuck the toes, push into the hands, maybe lift that chest a little higher and squeeze the shoulder blades back. Then release that chest back down, tuck under with the toes, core engagement, rib and hip tether as you push into the hands to push the chest back to the thighs. Push into those hands, push into the feet, lift up the hips, squeeze the heels back to find that downward facing dog. Just holding it in down dog for a breath. And just feel that stretch from the top of the head all the way down to the heels on that back chain of muscles. And start to breathe a little into those rib cages, the back rib cages, the side and the front of the ribs. Really creating space around that torso for that breath. Your next breath in, I'm taking option 3. If you wish to come with me, come forward slowly to a plank on a long inhale. On a long exhale, release to a hover, elbows grazing the ribs. A long inhale, you roll over the toes and you lift up the chest, bringing it into our full upward facing dog, thighs away. Then on our out breath, engage that core center, start to tether the ribs and hips as you lift the hips back, rolling over those toes back to down dog. Have a little nod, have a little shake of the head. Take a nice long easy breath in and a long breath out. Weight comes into your left foot as you raise up with the right leg, keeping the hips pointing down. So we've got level hips to the mat. And then take a bend into your right knee. Push your right foot towards the left side of the room as you open your hip to the right. And feel like you're creating that space on that hip flexor of the right side. Pushing the right foot as far as you can towards that left side of the room. Try and create some space across the collarbones. Don't let those shoulders creep up to the ears. Squeeze that right bum cheek, maybe to push that right foot a little further, really stretching through that front chain on that right side body, into that right side waist, into the right side of the oblique muscles. And then realign the hips, start to bring the knee into the chest and curl through the upper back and breathe into that space in between the shoulder blades. Take a gaze in between the hands, keeping the hips relatively high. Start to step the right foot forward in between the hands. So finding our runner's lunge position, pushing strong into the feet, and then bring the hands behind the head. Interlace the fingers. So the chest is still sat on that right thigh at the moment. And then try and lift the elbows up away from the mat, so they almost come in line with the ears or a little higher. And then from this space, start to lift the chest away from the thighs. And then from this space, grow from the bra line up without arching the lower back, and squeeze the shoulder blades together to draw the elbows a little further out. Breathe deeply. Breathe that breath into the heel of that left foot. Breathe that breath into the space of the front side of the chest. Try not to put too much pressure on the neck. Using those muscles in between the shoulder blades to keep those elbows lifted. Long, easy breath in. Easy breath out. Then slowly start to lower that chest back to that right thigh. Then release those hands down to the floor. Step your right foot back to meet the left. Lift the hips back to down dog. Have a nod, shake of the head. Remember, when you've got those hands interlaced behind the neck, try not to put too much pressure there. Just use the muscles of the shoulders, the muscles in between the shoulder blades to lift those elbows without pushing the hands into the head. Vinyasa from here, forward to plank, inhale. Release to the floor, your variation. I'm taking straight body all the way to the mat. Untuck the toes, push into the hands, lift the chest, create the space at the front of the body. On the out breath, release the chest down, tuck under with the toes. Chest comes back to the thighs, or you're rolling straight over the toes if you're doing option 3. Lifting up the hips, squeezing of the heels back, finding back in down dog for everybody. Getting ready to take that on the opposite side. So breath in, we raise up with the left leg, hips stay down facing to the mat. And then take a bend into your left knee. Lift and open the hips to the left side, keeping the shoulders neutral to the front edge. Pushing the left foot to the right side of the room, opening those hips. Feeling that space on that left side body, from the hip flexors down into those waists, up into those quads. One more breath here. Then realign the hips. Bring that knee into the chest, create the space at the back of the body. Come onto the toes of the back foot, keep the hips high. And then look into the hands and step that left foot through. Keep that chest on the thigh. Lift the hands behind the back of the head, interlace the fingers, then lift the elbows up nice and high by squeezing the muscles in between those shoulder blades. Then raise the chest slightly away from that thigh, draw the ribs and hips together, but then expand through that upper part of the chest. without taking it into a back bend. Squeeze the shoulders back. Feel like you're growing up from that bra line, up through the crown of the head. Using all the strength of the back chain of muscles to keep that torso in this 45-degree angle. Keep squeezing the shoulders to lift those elbows. Breathe into that chest. And then release those chest back to the thighs. Release the hands to the floor. Step your left foot back to meet the right. And lift the hips. Squeeze those heels back. Relax the neck. Have a nod and a shake of the head. Take a vinyasa of your choice with long, slow breaths. Forward to an inhale, plank position. Release to the floor or a hover, elbows grazing the ribs as you lower. On your in-breath, take it to a baby cobra or an up dog and create that space through the chest. And on your out-breath, breathe rolling over the toes or chest back to the thighs. Lifting the hips, squeezing those heels back. Next breath in. Weight comes into your left foot, raise the right foot, bend the right knee, turn the hips to the right, keeping the shoulders neutral. Breathe into that space of that right hip flexor. Contract those glutes on the right side to push the right foot towards the left side of the room. Then realign the hips, bring that knee into the chest, create that space through the back of the body, come onto the toes of the left foot, step your right foot through. So lifting up with the arms, up to our high lunge position and sink the hips low. Bring the arms out in front of you and reach forward. Right arm hooks under the left, either find the back of the hands or palms. Roll the shoulders through and down so we've got that curl in that upper back and tuck that chin into the chest. Keeping the torso here, then start to expand from the bra line, expand through the crown of the head but keeping the rib and hips tethered, and just lift the elbows slightly away and try and breathe into that space in between the shoulder blades where we're stretching after contracting with the last pose. So before we were stretching the front part of the body, the chest. This time we're stretching through those rhomboid muscles between the shoulder blades. Holding it in eagle arms at that 45-degree angle. One more breath in this space. Breathing into that back of the body. Then release the hand bind. Bring them either side of the right foot. Step the right foot back to meet the left. Lift the hips and squeeze the heels back. Vinyasa of your choice with a long, easy breath. Long breath in to plank. Long breath out to either release to the floor or to a hover. Then roll over those toes, lift up the chest, squeeze the shoulders back. Then taking it back into down dog, lifting the hips, or bringing chest back to thighs, or making our way to that space being created at the back of the body and the contraction at the front of the body with down dog. Weight comes into your right foot, left leg lifts. We bend up that left knee and then turn the hips to the left, left foot to the right. Try and squeeze that right heel towards the floor. Push those hands firmly into the mat. Lift that left knee up as high as you can. Breathe into that space on the left side of the body. Then realign the hips. Bring that knee into the chest. Keep the space at the back of the body. Come onto the toes of the back foot as you step your left foot through. Stabilise the feet to the floor first. Then raise up the hands second to find high lunge. Then reaching forward with the hands. This time your left arm comes under the right, Either find back of the hands or palms together. And then curl the shoulders over, chin into the chest. Breathe into that space between the shoulder blades. Keep the ribs and hips tethered as you start to expand from the bra line. Lifting through the chest slightly, lifting up through the arms, but still keeping yourself in that 45-degree angle. Long breaths in. Breathe down into that right heel. Feeling that space being created at the back of the body again, compared to the pose that we did on this side at the front of the body. Keep that breath if you can, coming in and out through the nose. Stretching through that connective tissue in between the shoulder blades to create mobility. Holding the torso in this space creates stability. Unwind the arms, bring the hands either side of that left foot. Step your left foot back to meet the right. And then lift the hips. Squeeze the heels back. Relax through the neck. And then when you're ready, taking a vinyasa of your choice, taking it forward to plank on the inhale. Slowly release down to the floor or to that hovering position, exhale. Then roll through, up, lift up the chest. Then making your way back to down dog. Lifting the hips and squeezing the heels back. So remember, child's pose is always a place you can come to if it all gets a little too tense, a little too strong. Your next breath in, we lift up with the right leg, we bend up with the right knee, and we push the right foot to the left, keeping the shoulders neutral to the front. Create that space between the collarbones and the ears and the shoulders. Try and open up a little more with that right hip. Maybe lift that right knee a little higher and push the right foot a little further over to the left. Create that space along the waist of the right side body. Then realign the hips. Bring that knee into the chest. Gaze in between the hands as you step your right foot through. Ground your left heel to the floor. Reach up and over with that left hand. Find warrior two arms, warrior two legs. Think about squeezing that right knee towards the right side of the room. Opening down that inside right thigh. Try and tether those ribs and hips to try not to arch into that lower back. Then bring the hands behind you, take an interlace of the fingers. Push the hands down towards the floor, squeeze the shoulder blades together. Grow up through that bra line to the crown of the head, but try and tuck that tailbone under. Really working strength into the back and space into the chest. Sink a little lower into that right thigh. Push a little firmer into the feet. Stability, mobility, flexion, extension, working everything in the body, but particularly creating space. Space for the lower back as you tuck the tailbone down. Space for the chest as you squeeze the shoulder blades together. Space for that inner right thigh as you squeeze that right knee towards the big toe on that right foot. And maybe sink a little lower into the hips. Keep breathing, easy breaths. Release the bind of the hands. Bring them back up to shoulder height. Then wingmill the hands down either side of that right foot. Step your right foot back to meet the left. Lift the hips, squeeze the heels back. Take a vinyasa of your choice, forward to plank inhale. Release to a hover or all the way to the floor if you wish, or drop the knees. Push into the hands, a little baby cobra. Release the chest back down, tuck under with the toes or roll straight over those toes, lifting the hips. Finding your variation back to down dog. Let go of any tension you're holding in the neck. Getting ready to take warrior two with a bind of the hands on the opposite side. Breath in, raise the left leg, bend the left knee, turn the hips to the left, push the left foot to the right. Open that hip up a little more by lifting that left knee and squeezing the right bum cheek to push those hips to the left side of the room. The left foot to the right side of the room. Then realign the hips, bring that knee into the chest, keep the space through the back of the body, and then step your left foot through. Drop your right heel down, windmill the right arm up, over, staying bent into that left knee. Arms come to warrior two, arms, same with the legs. Squeeze that left knee out to create the space on the inner left thigh. Relax the shoulders down. Push strong into the feet. Then bring the hands down behind the back, interlace the fingers. Push the hands down towards the floor. Squeeze the shoulder blades together. Tuck the tailbone under, lift the lower belly up. Space on the inner thigh of the left leg. Space in the lower back. Space across the chest. Space between the shoulders and the ears. Elongation through the crown, from the bra strap up. Lower maybe into those hips a little more. Squeeze the palms together. Squeeze the shoulder blades together. One more breath here. Then release the bind. Bring the arms back. Warrior two. Then windmill the hands down. Either side of that left foot. Step the left foot back, plank. Lift the hips back, down dog. Take a vinyasa here of your choice. Forward to plank, inhale. Release to a hover, remembering to turn the eye of the elbow forward. Then roll over those toes, lift the chest, thighs, stay away, creating space along the front of the body. And then take it back into down dog to create that space along the back of the body. We're going to be taking a variation of side angle stretch, using one hand behind the head to create that space along the front chest. Breath in, raise up the right leg, bend up with the right knee, stack up with the hips, push the right foot to the left. Shoulders stay aligned to the front of the mat, squeeze the right bum cheek, squeeze the left bum cheek. Then realign the hips, bring the knee into the chest, keeping the hips high. And then gaze in between the hands to bring your right foot through. Drop your left heel down, windmill arms up and over first. Keep a bend into your right knee. Left hand comes behind the back of the head. Right elbow comes onto that right thigh. Turn the right palm up. Turn the chest towards that left side of the mat. Sink low in the hips. And I want you to concentrate on lifting that left elbow up to point up to the ceiling. Feel the contraction of the rhomboid muscle in between that left shoulder blade and the right shoulder blade. Try not to flare the back, flare the ribs to arch the back. Try and think of a little bit of a ribbon hip tether. Lifting that elbow up, maybe a little higher. So your choice can be to stay here with elbow of the right on the right knee, or bring that right hand to the inside of that right foot, but still keeping that left elbow lifted. Squeezing the deltoid muscles on the shoulders and creating some space through those pectoral muscles on the left side chest. One more breath. In this position, remember that right elbow can still be on the knee if you wish. It's just another variation for the pose. And then release that elbow down to the floor. Release the hand down. Right hand the opposite side of the right foot. Step back to plank. Lift up the hips. Squeeze the heels back. Then take a vinyasa through of your choice. Forward to plank, inhale. Release down to the floor or hover. Roll through, up, lift up the chest. Remember, we're taking long breaths in these vinyasas. Take it back to down dog. Lifting the hips, squeezing those heels back. So same pose on the opposite side. Weight comes into your right foot as you lift your left leg. Bend your left knee, push the left foot to the right. Space down that left side of the torso into the hip flexor, into that thigh. Realign the hips, bring the knee into the chest. Gaze in between the hands and step your left foot through. Drop your right heel down, windmill the right arm up and over. Sink into that left knee. Right hand comes behind the back of the head. Left elbow comes onto the left thigh. Left palm faces up, right elbow points up. Try not to arch the lower back. Keep a good alignment of the spine. Grow long through the left side of the body. Space down the chest on that right side by squeezing that right shoulder blade towards the left. You can stay here if this is good enough for you, or you can bring that left hand to the inside of that left foot, but make sure that right elbow doesn't drop forward. The chest should still be turned to the right side of the room. Try not to put any increased pressure on the neck, just a feather-light touch at the back of the head. Maybe lift that elbow a little more. Work those muscles in the back. Keep that length down the left side of the waist, the bend in the left knee, the straightness of the back leg. Side angle stretch, but we're actually working more on the rotation to the right than we are with the extension of that upper hand. One more breath here. And then bring that right elbow to point down. Bring the right hand down, left hand to the opposite side of the left foot. Step the left foot back to meet the right. And take the lift of the hips to down dog. And then flow a vinyasa of your choice from here. Forward to plank on the inhale. Really long breath in. Release to the floor or hover on the exhale with that long breath out. Roll through, up, lift up the chest. Create the space at the front of the body, stretching that connective tissue of the anterior chain. And then lifting the hips to stretch the connective tissue of the posterior chain. Finding yourself in down dog. Just taking a few moments in this space. So we're going to take one more pose on both sides, which is triangle, but we're still going to keep one hand behind the back of our head to keep the chest turning to either side of the mat. Weight comes into your left foot as you raise your right leg. Bend your right knee, turn your hips to the right and push your right foot to the left. Align the shoulders to the front of the mat. Then realign the hips, bring that knee into the chest. Come onto the toes of the back foot, then step your right foot through. Drop your left heel down, windmill your left arm up and over. This time straightening both legs. Left hand comes behind the back of the head. Think about the lower lift of the belly, the tuck of the tailbone. Then reach forward with the right hand. Bring your right hand to the inside of the right leg as you keep that left elbow lifted to the ceiling. So the lift of this left elbow stops that shoulder dropping forward. It keeps the chest turned out to the left side of the mat. Micro bend through that right knee. Length through the right side waist. Squeeze of that muscle of the left rhomboid to create that space along that pectoral at the front of the chest. Try and use those oblique muscles to keep that torso in a nice long line so we're not collapsing over that right leg. Open that chest a little more if you can to the left side of the room. Energetically push down into both feet. Then use the oblique muscles to lift the torso up. Again, arms back out, T-shape. Bend into your right knee. Windmill the hands down, either side of the right foot. Step back to plank. And lift up the hips and squeeze those heels back. Take a vinyasa. Forward to plank, inhale. Release down to the floor, either dropping the knees, straight bodies, or hover. Roll through, up, lift up the chest. Making your way back to down dog. Engaging that core center as you lift the hips. Breathe into the space of the back of the body. Relax the neck. Feeling that connective tissue, helping to get a little more mobility as we stretch, flex, extend. Left side, breathe in, left leg lifts, bend the left knee, stack up the hips, turning the hips to the left, push strong into the hands, keep the shoulders aligned to the short edge of the mat. Realign the hips, bring the knee towards the chest, create that space underneath the body to bring your left foot through. Drop your right heel down, windmill both hands up and over, straighten both legs. Right hand comes behind the head. Keep a little softness in that left knee so we don't lock out. Reach forward with the left hand, create the space down the left side body, and then bring that left hand to the inside of that left shin. Chest is open to the right, squeeze the shoulder blades together, space through the chest, elbow of the right pointing up to the ceiling. Space down the left side waist, contract everything around that torso, that core strength to keep the core engagement to hold the pose. Try not to put any pressure through the neck. Lift that elbow of the right, maybe a little more. Don't lock out with that left knee. Ground nice and firmly into the floor, knowing that you're using all those muscles along the sides of the waist to hold the torso in this compromising space. One more breath here, and then lift the shoulders by engaging the obliques. Bring the arms out to a T shape. Bend into that left knee. Windmill the hands down either side of the left foot. Step your left foot back to plank. Lift the hips back to down dog. And take a flow vinyasa of your choice here. Forward to plank on the inhale. Long breath in. Long breath out to exhale to hover or come to the floor. Roll over the toes, lift the chest if you're in hovering position, or just lift up baby cobra or up dog. And then either take your chest back to thighs or roll straight over the toes. Lifting the hips, squeezing the heels back. So coming down onto the knees, if you wish to take water, or come to child's pose. So we're going to do all those poses on one side and then take all those poses on the other. And on the last side, we're going to do our wide leg fold with arms behind the head, just to add one more pose on to the end of the day. Take some breaths here. You'll probably be feeling some tightness in the shoulders as we've created that space along the chest. One more breath here. And when you're ready, making your way back to down dog, bring the knees back under the hips, tabletop position first, plank second, lift the hips back to down dog third. Okay, so create some space along the collarbones, shoulder blades into the back pockets, shoulders away from the ears. Weight comes into your left foot as you raise your right leg. Bend your right knee, stack up your hips, pushing your right foot to the left. Breathe into that space of the right hip flexor, right waist. Then realign the hips. Knee comes into the chest. Breathe into the lower back. And then bring that right foot in between the hands. Keeping the chest on top of the thighs. Bring the arms behind the back of the head. Then lift the elbows. Lift the torso to that 45-degree angle. And then grow from the bra line up. Expand the chest a little more. Lift the elbows a little higher. Use the muscles in the back of the body. Back leg straight. Right knee bent. And then reach the arms forward in front of you. Right elbow comes under the left. Either find back of the hands or palms. Tuck the chin in. Curl through the back. Then keep that ribbon hip tether as you lift from the bra line up. Raise the elbows up and away from the chest. Maybe raise the gaze slightly. Eagle arms on this side. Then release the bind. Bring the hands to the hips. Drop the back heel and find warrior two arms. Chest turn to the left, bent into the right knee. Tuck under with the tailbone, lift the lower belly. Then bring the hands behind you, interlace the fingers, push the hands down towards the floor, squeeze the shoulder blades together. Holding it in warrior two, chest space, inner thigh of the right leg, spacing in there. Space in the lower back. Then release that bind of the hand. Bring your right forearm onto the top of the right thigh, left hand behind the back of the head, and lift that chest to almost facing an angle to the ceiling. Elbow of the left arm lifted, not putting too much pressure in that neck. Then bringing the torso back up, straightening through the right leg, right arm comes out. Then reach out with the right hand, create space down the right side of the waist. Right hand comes to the inside of that right shin. Left elbow stays lifted. Work the muscles in that back. Try not to collapse over that right leg. Try not to hyperextend in that right knee. Keeping a nice long line from the crown of the head to the tailbone. Space along the right side of the body. And the hold is coming from that left side waist. Lift those shoulders back over the hips. Both arms come out to a T shape. Bend back into that right knee. Then windmill the hands down either side of the right foot. Right foot back to meet the left. Hips lift to a down dog. Take a vinyasa here of your choice. Forward to plank, inhale. Release to a hover, nice and slow, exhale. Roll through, up, lift the chest, create that space at the front body. And then contract the front body to create the space in the back body. So we'll be doing those same poses left side. Weight comes into your right foot, raise the left leg, bend the left knee, turn the hips to the left. Breathe into that left hip flexor, left waist, left rib cage. Then realign the hips, bring the knee to the chest, breathe into that lower back. And then step that left foot in between the hands. Chest stays on the thigh, bring the hands behind the back of the head. Lift the elbows, push stable into the feet as you lift the chest. 45-degree angle, ribbon hip tether, but expand from the bra line up. Squeeze the elbows to lift, the shoulder blades to lift the elbows higher. And then reach forward with both hands. Left elbow comes under the right, back of the hands or palms. Curl the torso in first, elbows into the body, chin into the chest. Then keep the ribs and hips tethered as you expand from the bra line. Lift up the elbows, lift up the gaze. And then lifting the torso up, hands come to hips, drop the right heel, left knee stays bent. Bring the arms, warrior two. Open that left knee out, space on the inner thigh of the left leg. Then bring the hands behind you, interlace the fingers, push the hands down to the floor. Squeeze the shoulder blades together. Create space in the lower back by lifting the lower belly up. Sink into those left knees. Breathing easy here. Then release the grip of the hands, right hand behind the back of the head. Left elbow onto that left thigh. Keep the chest rotated to the right elbow pointing up. Squeeze that right shoulder blade, the muscles between them to keep that chest a little open to the ceiling. Long length down the left side of the body as well as the right. Make sure that left knee isn't dropping inwards. Keep it turned out. Keep pushing strong for that stability through the feet. Lift the torso, straighten the left leg. Reach out with the left hand, don't lock the left knee out. As you reach forward with the left hand, bring it to the inside of that left shin. Keep that right elbow lifted, right hand behind the back of the head. Elongate the left side body. Keep everything strong in the centre. Keep breathing easy. And again, switch on those muscles in the torso to lift that body back up. Bring both arms out to a T. Then turn both sets of toes towards the long right side of the mat. Hands come behind the back of the body. Interlace the fingers. Push the hands down to the floor. Squeeze the shoulder blades. Lift the lower belly up. Tuck the tailbone down. Raise up through the upper ribs. Up from the bra line, crown of the head. And then from this point, pivot from the hips. Start to lean forward to a half fold first. Take a breath in here. Then as you breathe out, let the torso fold over those thighs and maybe lift those hands away from the lower back to either hover over the head or just keep them at the lower back if that feels more comfortable, and just work the arms as far forward as you can towards that right side of the room. Only go as far as your shoulders are happy to take your hands to. One more breath here. Then release the hands to the lower back if they're not there already. Then release the hands to the floor. And just allow the body to stay in that fold for a moment. Then bring the hands behind the back of the head. Raise the elbows up. And then start to use the back muscles to lift that torso up to that half fold. Try not to arch the lower back. Keep that belly engaged. Keep the elbows lifted. Don't take the pressure in the head. Grow tall from the bra line up. One more breath here. Then lift that torso back over the hips. Release the hands down by the sides of the body. Turn that left foot back. Windmill the hands down either side of the left foot. Step back to plank. Lift up with the hips. Squeeze the heels back. Take a vinyasa of your choice. Forward to plank. Inhale, long breath in. And release to a hover or all the way to the floor. Exhale. Roll through, up, lift the chest, inhale. Then make your way back to down dog on your exhale. Make your way into a seat. swinging the legs around or hopping the feet through. We're going to take one more chest expansion, front body expansion, and then take it into a forward fold. So bring the hands behind you, fingertips pointing in or out to the side if that's uncomfortable for the wrists. Take a bend into both knees, feet hip width apart. Squeeze the shoulder blades together and lift up through the chest. Then push into the feet, start to tether the ribs and hips as you start to lift up with the hips to bring it into a tabletop position. The gaze can be up to the ceiling or forward towards the knees. Keep pushing into those hands. Keep squeezing those bums. One more breath here. And then slowly let those bums come back to the mat. Reach out with the legs, bring them to the front, toes back, heels pushing away. On your next breath in, raise the hands up to the ceiling. Create space through the rib cage, through the armpits, up to the fingertips. Then on your out breath, fold from the hips, bring the hands towards the feet. Take a breath in, elongate. Breath out and fold. Just take one more breath here. And then slowly curl up through that spine. One vertebra at a time. Bringing yourself into a seated position, either crossing the legs or bringing the knees underneath. We're going to finish our practice in seated today. Bring the hands on top of the thighs. Lift up through the crown of the head, close the eyes. Squeeze the shoulder blades back and down. Breathe into the rib cage. Breathe into the belly. Breathe into the lower back. Try and send this breath into those spaces so as you breathe in, the belly blows up, the lower back expands, the rib cage at the front, sides and back of the body expand, and space along the collarbones. Then as you breathe out, let everything relax and draw back in with a little contraction to squeeze that air back out. Breath in again, lower belly, lower back, front, side, back of the ribs, collarbones, shoulders. Breath out, let everything slightly contract to squeeze that air back out. Follow that breath as everything expands on the inhale. Create that space for that prana, that life force, that breath to come in to feed the body. And the out breath, use that slight contraction to push out that carbon dioxide. Cleanse the whole body with the breath. Your next breath in, raise the hands up to the ceiling, palms together at the top. On your out breath, bring the hands to the chest, soft gaze to the floor. Have peace in your thoughts, your words, your hearts, from my heart to yours. Namaste.